Thursday, here we go. JD here, good to have you on board. We thank you as always for taking some of your time to spend it with us here. Be a part of the program where intellectual anarchy is encouraged and nurtured for now. Do a 643 ATM of information loaded up, ready to be accessed. Here's the PIN, 800-876-4123. Jesse producing, Don producing and working the dials. Mike screening the calls, emails at the website. And the poll question up there for you today. A lot of pundits are commenting on Rick Perry's painful-to-watch oops in last night's debate. They go from he just froze to his campaign is over. What's your take on this? Nobody says you question his intellect. 10% say his campaign is over. 13% say not ready to be president. 33% say he had a brain freeze. And 44% say, I agree with all 7 of the previous. That's the little joke there. Do you get it? There was only 3, but I put in 7, kind of a comment. That now, we're not going to get through. No penalty flags are going to be thrown on the program here today at us for intentional piling on of Rick Perry. It was painful to watch. It was excruciatingly painful to watch as an actor, as a human being, as just someone who is watching someone else just up there, just literally dying on stage. And having had the experience of being on a set where 75 sets of eyes are staring at you, I can only imagine the kind of pain that Rick Perry was experiencing and the panic that he was going through at the time. Brutal. I mean, I'm looking at people showing it with a stopwatch, clicking away on the bottom like 60 minutes. 53 seconds of agony. 48 seconds of pure hell. Byron York, he comments on Rick Perry's why he bombed, and he gets into all these theories about his campaign and the timing and when he got in. The American Spectator, why Rick Perry's brain freeze matters. Gingrich jokes about Perry debate flub. And the list of people piling on Rick Perry goes on and on and on and on. And it's easy to do, but we're not going to have any unnecessary end zone celebration at Rick Perry's expense. Now, from the beginning, I told you, and Senator Jim Inhofe on this program, who endorsed Rick Perry right out of the box, that Rick Perry is a fraud, that he's not a conservative, and he's not ready for prime time. When I had the luxury of being an above-the-line actor on my television series, there were a lot of people that had cursory interest in the business. They wanted to be in the business. And people would say, hey, can you get me to see the producers? Can you get me to see the director? Can you get me in to audition for the casting director? And you have to understand what the motivation is. And usually the hot chicks, well, you know how that goes. Anyway, I'm just being honest. There's a big difference between wanting to be an actor and wanting to be famous. Rick Perry wants to be the president for all the perks of being the president, but he doesn't want to go through what an actor has to go through to become famous, if that is a byproduct of what you do in wanting to be an actor. He figured this was a cakewalk, that he was the governor of Texas. Remember his chest sticking out in those first couple of debates? They had that big, goofy smile and always putting his thumb. I'm Rick Perry. I'm Rick Perry. You're supposed to vote for me because I'm Rick Perry. Well, we need to know a little bit more about Rick Perry. And as we started to watch him in the debates, questions started to arise as to who this guy really is and what is he all about and what does he believe in. Now, with regard to his not being able to fill in the third of the 3 departments that he wanted to eliminate, that to me is somebody who didn't own his lines, didn't own his material. You would have to think that if you're talking about eliminating 3 major departments in the United States government and all of the downstream ramifications of how that's going to filter out, how that's going to work out, where those jobs go, who's going to do those jobs, what costs are going to be absorbed by other agencies, how are we going to transfer power from the federal to the state government, from the state to the local, How's that going to impact teacher-to-child classroom ratio? All of those things, you'd have to think that, well, I'd have to have a pretty good understanding. I'd have to own the reason that I wanted to abolish the Department of Education. But he doesn't own his words. He's in love with the idea of being famous, as many are in love with the idea of being famous under the guise of being an actor. Rick Perry got caught last night as an actor, an imposter, a fraud who doesn't own his own words. Michael Caine. Are we running video on the show today, Michael Caine? We are? Okay. Michael Caine wrote a book late 1980s, early 1990s. It's called Acting in Film, an actor's take on movie making. I'm holding it up there for you. It's a really interesting read on not only his mind on what acting is all about and acting in film specifically is all about, but it's all about being ready for that moment. And it's all about the camera and how the camera catches you every time. Now, if you're a stage actor and you've got an ensemble with you, which he had last night on stage, he turned to his fellow actors last night, Rick Perry. He looked around and said, hey, guys, help me out. I've gone up on my line. I've frozen. Ron Paul tried to help him out, held up that $5 like he was doing a Subway for $5 foot long. And I didn't know if Rick Perry was going to high five Ron Paul, and someone else tried to help him out and throw in a word out there, and he was laughing. And did you see the panic in Rick Perry's face when he went up on his line? But the rest of the cast wasn't supporting him. They weren't there. The orchestra wasn't playing a song. There wasn't a distraction. There was no physicality that he could fall to make up the gap where he went up on his line. As an actor, having gone up on my lines to the point where, oh my God, we're going to have to cut this scene. Regardless of where we were at in the scene, there were certain tricks that you could use. There were little gimmicks that you could always call to the forefront to use as you're scouring your hard drive trying to find that line that you've said 50 times. If you've said it once, you woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning to say that line, just to make sure that you remember that line because that line was important or that line was difficult or that line didn't make sense, but you had to say it in the context of what the scene was all about. You know it. It's there. But you just can't find it. And the panic starts to set in. And you're on the set. And everybody's staring at you. And the director says, action. And when you can't remember your first word, that 53 seconds or whatever it was that Rick Perry was going through last night, it is a lifetime. It's a lifetime. Now, I was an actor on a science fiction series, on a Warner Brothers show, on a fake space station with costumes that were designed by people who didn't really live in outer space. When I walked up to a door, I knew it was going to open because it said in the script it was going to open. I've seen actors walk into doors that didn't open because they thought the door was supposed to open. They weren't ready for the scene. Michael Caine talks about this and how you got to come to understand to a certain degree what Rick Perry was going through last night. He said, the ordinary man in the street doesn't get up in the morning and say to himself, how shall I act today? What impression shall I give? He just lives his life, goes about his business, thinking his thoughts. A film actor must be sufficiently in charge of his material and in tune with the life of his character to think his character's most private thoughts as though no one were watching him, no camera was spying on him. The camera just happens to be there. They say you've learned a foreign language when you start dreaming it. A film actor must be able to dream another person's dream before he can call that character his own. Like any attentive mistress, the camera hangs on your every word, your every look. She can't take her eyes off you. She's listening to you. She's recording everything you do, however minutely you do it. Behaving realistically and truthfully in front of the camera is an exacting craft. It requires steadfast discipline and application. If you catch somebody acting in a movie, that actor is doing it wrong. The moment he's caught performing for the camera, the actor has blown his cover. He's no longer a private character in a private world. Now he's a highly paid actor on contract to speak those lines for the public. Goodbye, illusion. Goodbye, career. The camera will catch you every time. Michael Caine writes about this way. The close-up, that's the money shot, folks. The close-up, the hero shot, is the shot on which film relies most when it comes to transferring subtleties of emotion and thought. The close-up camera won't mysteriously transform a drab moment into something spectacular unless the actor has found something spectacular in the moment. In fact, it will do just the opposite. The close-up camera will seek out the tiniest uncertainty and magnify it. Forgetting your lines can be coming up on stage where the actor is 20 feet from the front row of the audience, but the camera will betray the smallest, unscheduled hesitation every time. And he talks about when you're on the set. Think of the set last night that Rick Perry was on, the stage that he was on, the performance that he was giving. You have to be relaxed. Michael Caine says movie acting is about relaxation. If you're knocking yourself out, you're doing it wrong. One of the first things you have to learn is how hard it is to overcome nerves. Preparation, a big step towards controlling those. The work that goes into beforehand to subdue the fears. Preparation points coming together to create a safety net. Everybody needs one. In film acting, you do usually know the director's intentions until you get on the set. So you have to be ready for all the uncertainties and whatever it is that gets thrown your way. And then you're waiting for your big moment. Everyone else is waiting for you in that big moment. And the moment arrives. They say quiet on the set. And you've never heard such quiet. It's deafening. You can hear the blood in your own eardrums. That's how quiet it is. And then in that deafening quiet, the director says, action. And you can't remember your line. And that camera is boring into your brain. Those eyeballs are staring at you, judging you, waiting for you to do what it is that you're supposed to be doing as a highly paid actor, which is exactly what Rick Perry is.
The Jerry Doyle Show.
A highly paid actor who doesn't own his lines, who got caught acting. Now, I don't know whether his campaign's over. I'm not questioning his intellect. Maybe it was just a brain freeze. But when you're on stage, giving the performance of your life, knowing that you've already pooched 3 or 4 in a row, this is a guy who wants to be the president. For the perks of the presidency and the power and the prestige and the fame of the presidency, like someone who wants to be famous without doing the work of an actor. 800-876-4123. Jerry Doyle, join me.
The Jerry Doyle Show.